My name is Joanna Richards and I play the character of Hero.
I'm Izaac Beech and I'm playing the character of Claudio.
Hero is Leonato's daughter and Claudio's betrothed. So basically, it's interesting because when you read a lot about Hero, she's always presented as this character that's incredibly sweet. And that was definitely how I viewed her and approached playing her towards the beginning of rehearsals. But I found that my Hero has very much changed and is less sweet than she is young. So a lot of her sweetness is actually, it's not so much that she's sweet, she's naive. And so I've been trying to play her to really bring out that kind of, the breadth that you have with youth, the willingness to be extremely happy and extremely sad and extremely trusting. And yeah, so my Hero is very young, and unfortunately life isn't particularly kind to her in this scenario.
Claudio is a young lord of Florence, a very passionate young man, sees Hero and is instantly in love with her. And yeah, just tapping into the character's passion and everything has been a really valuable part of getting the characterization. A really helpful task for me was writing a whole backstory for him so that there's anchor points to see what in his life has brought him to who he is now. Yeah, and the betrothed to Hero for their wedding, which will be a fun occasion.
Well, we do have a lot of time where we are in love. Quite a bit of it is off stage. There is a week that takes place on stage, and obviously you don't see everything. We can hear through the text that Claudio and Hero met before he went off on this war campaign. So we have been besotted with one another for quite some time. It just so happens that on stage you see our more dramatic moments, and that does include a little bit of crying and fighting. But what do you think?
Yeah, it is a funny thing where, yeah, we're in love and we're this pair, but we don't have as many of our moments on stage together are not these moments of being in love. There's, yeah, huge emotional parts where we're displaying other emotions than being in love. And
neither of us do anything by halves. So you'll see Claudio is extremely emotional and Hero rises to meet that. And what you have with Benedict and Beatrice is this real meeting of the minds. And I would say that Claudio and Hero are more a meeting of the hearts.
Some of the favourite moments in the text for me, Claudio, yeah, really passionate. He's got this great speech that he does at the wedding where he's just kind of ripping into Hero and shocking stuff he's saying, but it's kind of fun to just be a passionate person and go along with this whole ride that he's on. Yeah, I think that's one of the favourite moments for me in there.
For me, in the text, I actually love what isn't said for Hero. So there are lots of scenes where Hero is on stage and she doesn't say a word. It really reveals a lot about her character when she speaks. So it's not just what is said, but when it's said and to whom. Shakespeare, there's been a lot of challenging things when it comes to mastering the text. You really have to put in a lot of work for the text. But then for me, probably the biggest thing is trusting that you have it. I'm not even sure if I'm quite there yet, but putting in that work and working it and working the text and then letting it go and just realising that it will be in your body, because it's not like anything else. You can't just play the emotion or play the motivation. There's so much in the language that you need to treasure, but then not too much. So it's a real balancing act.
Yeah, a real integral part of it for me is understanding what you're saying, because there's all these really witty, clever jokes that Shakespeare has in them. And the first time you read through, you go, what is this muddle of words that I don't understand? But when you actually pull it apart and study the text, you see the cleverness of it in there, and you can start to understand it and know what you're saying so that you can show that with your body.
I mean, Claudio does do horrible things to Hero, and she does forgive him on one hand, I think out of necessity. Basically, we know that at this time, this is the option for her. But I think on a more important level than that, As I mentioned before, Claudio and Hero are very emotional people. And I think at this stage, her love will pretty much outweigh anything eventually. So yes, it's completely horrible, but they're made of the same stuff. So she's going to find it in herself to forgive him because she loves him.
Claudio is easily manipulated into believing that Hero's been unfaithful to him because he runs with his heart. And when the clever characters, knowing, how his mind works, they can easily overpower his mind, and he takes it with his heart and runs full pelt to, go see. And the evidence that they've planted convinces him. He's fairly gullible, but that comes with his passion.
And I think that's a lot the same reason why Hero ends up forgiving Claudio, because they're not necessarily head-driven. They're very emotional. They're the same sort of people. They're made of the same stuff. And their love conquers all, to be cliche. At the end of the day, it's stronger than others' manipulation, and holding on to things doesn't necessarily, it's not in their character to do that.
Yeah, the rehearsal for this show has been really fun. Working with some amazingly talented people from Canberra and people who've studied all over the world has been incredible. And such a range of people as well. Yeah, it's just amazing to work with people at such different stages of their acting careers.
And I think that's really important. Our rehearsal period, we've put in that work that Shakespeare requires, and we've been so fortunate to have people who have the skill and have the tools to tell us how to do it properly, that we've been able to structure our rehearsals to get that technicality down so that we can put on the best performance possible for our audience.